Listen, I've heard some people say dating, oh, it's supposed to be enjoyable. Just relax and have fun. Dating is wonderful. Actually, an awful lot of people who try dating, who are out there in that dating pool looking for a partner, trying to find actual real connection with someone, a lot of people in dating really think it's a very uncomfortable experience. Uncomfortable for so many different reasons that I don't need to go over here because you already know. Dating a lot of times can feel like a part-time job. People have to put themselves in these uncomfortable positions. They have to make themselves vulnerable. And of course, all this work that gets put in, who knows? Maybe it won't even work out in the end. So a lot of times people feel like, oh, what's the point? They just want to give up. Well, one of the things that I want to focus on specifically in this video is about when dating, it's not just that it's unpleasant or a person doesn't like it, but when dating actually triggers obsessive worrying. Obsessive worrying. And let me just kind of explain a little bit about what that means. I was talking with somebody this week, and they were talking about just all of the uncertainty that goes on with dating. And so I started thinking about how worrying is so often a part of what makes dating uncomfortable. Now, while it's uncomfortable for everybody, a lot of times, not everybody will get this sort of obsessive worrying triggered. Here's an example of one of the most common ways that the worrying gets obsessive. Let's imagine you're a few weeks into the dating relationship and you start thinking about, well, what's the other person doing? Are they talking to somebody else? Are they maybe seeing somebody else? Or were they already maybe dating somebody? How many people are they currently talking to? This kind of worrying can be really, really intense. Actually, some people report having physical symptoms. The anxiety, the worrying can get so bad about what the other person is doing. They can actually feel sometimes sick to their stomach. They can actually feel physically sick to their stomach, just on edge, really nervous. Sometimes it can be so bad that somebody just doesn't really feel like eating, or guess what? They end up overeating. They try to find different ways to self soothe. Maybe they turn to drinking alcohol or other unhealthy coping mechanisms to try to deal with this worrying. What's the other person doing? Now, it's understandable at this point in time, early on in the relationship, if this is you, if you're in this situation, you don't really know what the other person you're dating is doing, but you also don't really always feel like you can ask. So some people will ask, well, is it okay if 2 or 3 weeks into a relationship, I ask the other person, hey, are you dating anybody else? Here is my number one rule about relationships, dating, really any kind of relationships. People are allowed to give themselves permission to ask the questions they want. It doesn't mean, however, that the other person will answer or give you an answer that you really want to hear. So, if 2, 3 weeks into a dating relationship, you really want to know, hey, are you seeing somebody else? You can ask. But the number one thing that I would caution people about in wanting to ask the other person too many questions so early on in dating, let's say 2, 3 weeks into the relationship, whether they're seeing somebody else, talking to somebody else is, well, first of all, it is their right. It is their right. And also, maybe it would be perfectly normal for some people 2, 3 weeks into a relationship to be talking to others. Dating is not, the first couple of weeks into a relationship, a contract. Dating is not something where you sign on the dotted line that as soon as you find somebody you like and you start dating, you agree that you are monogamous, you are locked into a relationship. So remember, you are able to ask the questions that you want in that new dating relationship. But the most important point, though, is that you or anyone who's new in dating give the relationship a little bit of a chance. You know, if you're thinking about asking somebody a month in, hey, are you seeing somebody? Are you dating somebody else? That seems perfectly reasonable because by that point, a person is really starting to get to know another person. If someone is engaging in physical contact and the relationship has gotten physical, that's even more of a reason to ask the other person that you're dating questions for physical safety reasons and STDs and whatnot. But this is also another point where we can take a step back and say, well, at what point does it make sense to get physical in a relationship? At what point does it make sense for people to cross that line into a physical relationship with each other? And I would argue that waiting a lot of times can be much better for a relationship. Once two people really have a sense of knowing each other better, they can see over a period of time the other person is reliable, can be counted on, they show up when they say they're going to show up. After a while of dating, each person has seen the other person over a period of time in multiple situations. They can kind of get a sense of what their mood is usually like, what their behavior is like. So, a lot of times, waiting a little longer to develop a physical relationship can really be good in so many different ways. And then finally, the last point that I want to share is this one. If you find yourself in early dating relationships really getting that obsessive worrying triggered, ask yourself, hold on, what is my motivation here? Ask yourself, what does it mean? Well, the worrying might mean that you are motivated in that moment, as irrational or illogical as you may even know that it is. Let's say 2, 3 weeks into dating somebody, that there is a part of you that wants to lock in that dating relationship, that wants to make it a contract, that wants to know for sure and have certainty that this dating relationship is going to last. That is often a motivation to want to lock in the relationship. But here is what I want to remind people. Just a few weeks into a dating relationship, no one really truly can know another new person. It takes a while to get to know someone in this life. It takes seeing them in many situations over a period of time to really start to get a sense of who the essence of this person is. So, if you find yourself obsessively worrying about someone early in a dating relationship, you have to take a step back and realize you might be telling yourself that you have decided you want this person to actually become your partner when you may have forgotten the most basic point of all. You actually, just a few weeks into the relationship, don't really know them. You actually need more information, more time spent getting to know them before you can decide if you even like them yourself, even want to be with them yourself. See, obsessive worrying so often is about what the other person is thinking, what the other person is feeling or doing. And I, by the end of this video here, want to bring you back to the real point, which is what really matters is what you want, what you need, and how you feel in that dating relationship. And you simply need some real time getting to know a person before you can figure that out. All right. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist.